Hey guys, it's Luca from Learning MPG, and today I want to do a little experiment. I was just thinking to myself, like, okay, probably for the past 20 years, I've played video games around 6 hours a day, if you like include Magic. So 6 hours a day, for 20 years. What if I made like $1 an hour and I invested it at 10%? Because I think 10% is pretty reasonable based on what I understand now about investing. I think you should be able to do 10% a year, if you're buying the right stuff. And I also think $1 an hour is reasonable as well. Like, even if you're playing a video game, you should be able to make like $1 an hour, um, in some form or another. Okay, so now is like, okay, so how much money would I have had if I had made that dollar an hour all my time spent playing games? And obviously, you can make way more. Like if you win a Magic tournament, or if you invest in certain Magic cards, or when I was playing WoW, I was I was like gladiator, and people would pay me so like thousands of gold just to join their team, play 3 games, and leave, and join another team, play 3 games, and leave, and make like there's so many ways in WoW to make gold. Um, Not to mention like Diablo. I'm playing Diablo right now. Like every game you play, pretty much Magic Online. How much money I've made on Magic Online? Like you could easily make $1 an hour. So, but the key is like do you waste that money that you make? Do you lose it? And do you invest it? So this is kind of the question: is like how much money would I have ended up with? So I'm gonna compound this in tenths of a year, I guess. Okay, so every tenth of a year is 36.5 days. And then if you're making $6 and $1 an hour times $6, 6 hours a day, you're making every tenth of the year you're making like 220 bucks. Okay. And then let's just compound it. How do I want to do this? Oh yeah, we'll just compound the last number and then we'll add another 219. So equals, actually, let's do the 219 here and keep track of the month there. So it's going to equal this times 1 plus. So a 1.1 is the rate of return, but I'm going to raise that to the 1/10th power because I'm only doing it for a tenth of the year. And then I'm going to add another 219. And yeah, why don't we count by point 0.1, point 0.2. We want to get to 20 years. Let's see if this is working as intended. No, it's not. Oh, okay, I see why. So you take the last period, you kind of increase it by a tiny bit, and then you add 219 every period. I'm not compounding daily because I don't want there to be like a million things here. So let's just see what you end up with at the end of 10 years. So by the end of 1 year, you would expect to be, yeah, at about 2,200. It's a little bit more. Okay. 10 years. So you would have had 36. I would have had $36,000 just from my playing video games 6 hours a day. That's pretty cool, actually. I wonder how long does it take to get to 10K. Let's see. Oh wait, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm old. What am I thinking? Okay, let's go to 20. See what happens at 20. Because I'm 32 and I definitely started playing video games before I was 12. Okay. If it's 30, it might be 100K actually. I don't know. I'm gonna guess like 60K. Oh my god, is that real? So I would have had 130K, 131K dollars if I just made $1 an hour and invested it at 10% for 20 years from my gaming. Dude, that is crazy. Yeah, wow. And the interesting, like, if you had that much money in the bank too, and you made 10% a year, you'd be making 13 grand interest a year on that money, which, if you live in a reasonable place, like I live in Texas right now, that's like, you can live off, that's like half of your living right there. Like, you can pay your rent on that, way more than pay your rent on that. So, and that's kind of the interesting question, because it's kind of like, okay, if I could have just played video games every day and I could have just made $1 an hour playing my video, I mean, obviously I would have had some expenses, but you could also just get a real job that pays more than $1 an hour. But this is the thing, is like my hobby created $131,000 worth of wealth at least, right? It's probably way more than that, because I probably played more than 6 hours a day. I probably played like 8 to 10 hours a day, probably like 8 hours a day. And I also made probably more than $1 an hour while I was playing. So I could have easily created like $250,000, $500,000 worth of wealth just from playing video games. So that it kind of begs the question, like, if I can create that much wealth doing what I love, why the fuck do we have to go to school? Why do we have to get degrees? Why do we have to get jobs with high salaries? Like, we don't need any of that stuff. It's kind of a gigantic illusion, like a mass hallucination of society, that you have to like go through all these lengths to get by in life. You have to get a degree. You have to like get a high paying job. You don't have to get any of that. If you can just put away any small amount of money consistently over time and invest it properly, you don't have to do any of that stuff. It's an alternative way to go through life. Obviously, I mean, there's pros and cons to either way. Some people maybe like to have kind of the high spending lifestyle. You got a nice house, you got a nice car, you can spend money on lots of things all the time, going out to eat all the time. And yeah, you got to work a lot harder and you got to get that degree and that high salary. But I think there's a lot of people that are like me that don't give a fuck about any of that and would rather just kind of like chill out and not be dependent on, because if you're in that kind of lifestyle, you lose your job, you're in trouble. Um, it's almost like you're starting back from square one. Uh, if anyone's read Thoreau, his book Walden, he kind of talks about this, where he kind of rejected that lifestyle of the time, and is like, he just went out into the woods and built himself a cabin and lived off the land, and realized that, all of a sudden he wasn't anxious to pay rent, anxious to get by. He could do it all on his own, and it's obviously way easier nowadays. You don't have to go out into the forest. You can, just, you can do weird stuff. I'm actually thinking about making like starting streaming, and my stream would be basically me just messing around trying to make money in different games. Like playing Magic Online. If I play Magic Online, I could probably make like $2-3 an hour playing Magic Online. If I play Diablo, I could probably make like $1 an hour playing Diablo. Um, but yeah, and just seeing like what I can do and then invest that money. Like, for example, I could play Diablo, get an item, sell it for forum gold, use the forum gold to buy ticks and Magic Online, use the ticks to buy like some digital Magic cards, and then make profit on them. If I speculate properly, and then I could sell those ticks for money and use that money to buy Bitcoin. I'm thinking about doing something like that, just to show people like what you can do, even if you're only making like $1 an hour or whatever. It's a random idea, but I may actually follow through with it. We'll see what happens. So, anyways, I just thought I'd shoot this video, kind of like spur of the moment. But that's crazy. Like, just $1 an hour for my life. If I had just made $1 an hour and invested it at 10%, I'd have 131 grand. And I think a lot of people kind of intuitively understand this. Like, if anyone's played Magic and never sold their cards, like, they'd be sitting on this kind of cash, right? So, or a lot more probably. But yeah, it's just interesting, like, Anytime you put so much time into something, even if you make very little amount while you're doing it, and think about the alternative, right? So this is what happens if you're making $1 an hour playing various things, but like what if you were losing $1 an hour? Right, that's like a $250,000 swing, and I think that's something I think about a lot. Is like, if you're doing something repetitively, if you can get it to make you a tiny bit of money, it's huge, as opposed to having it lose you a tiny bit of money. So anyways, just some random thoughts. Hope you guys enjoy this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.